Our country is $40 trillion in debt. We have annual deficits. That means we spend more than we take in of $2 trillion per year. And we're now paying interest costs on our debt of $1 trillion. Historically, countries that have high deficits and debt like this eventually decline. What does $1 trillion mean in interest costs? It means less money for services that we rely on, like Social Security, healthcare, and national defense. It means that we're paying higher interest rates for mortgages, cars, businesses, and credit cards. It means we probably have to print money, and that's going to contribute to inflation and higher living costs for all of us. It's going to reduce our ability to respond to recessions, wars, and national emergencies. Younger generations will face higher taxes, slower growth, fewer government benefits, and fewer options for their futures. And unfortunately, we're already feeling this. With high debt and deficits over time, we are going to weaken our economic, strategic, and military strength, especially in a world that is unpredictable, dangerous, and hyper-competitive. How big is a $2 trillion deficit? Well, first of all, if you stacked a bunch of dollar bills up to the tune of $2 trillion, we could reach halfway to the moon. $2 trillion is larger than most national economies, including South Korea, Australia, Mexico, Spain, Switzerland, and Saudi Arabia. And most depressing, if we look at our deficits per person and per household, they're costing us about $5,900 per American and $15,000 per U.S. household per year. That is, if we wanted to eliminate our deficit and charge everybody equally, each person in the country would have to pay about $6,000. Every household would have to pay about $15,000 per year, more than we already are in taxes. The problem is not that this is just one $2 trillion number. This is every single year. We're running deficits of this scale repeatedly. In fact, we now pay more for interest than for defense. If you look at our top categories of spending, Social Security is $1.6 trillion. Medicare, which is care for our elderly, is $1.1 trillion. Net interest, $1 trillion. It's our third biggest category. It's larger than defense. So most federal or more federal money is now going towards servicing past borrowing instead of big priorities like our national defense. In fact, there's one economist, historian, who's posited that looking back historically, when countries reach this point, when they reach the point of paying more in interest because of large debt than they are on defense, they start to decline. Let's look at where federal spending actually goes, because this tells an interesting story. As I've already shared, $1.6 trillion Social Security. Healthcare, that's Medicare, Medicaid, the ACA, $2 trillion. Net interest, $1 trillion. Defense, $900 billion. Income security, safety net is about $650 billion. Veterans benefits is about $380 billion. Everything else is $500 billion. So 70 to 75% of our $7.1 trillion in spending is going for the big programs, the big entitlements, retirement and healthcare, as well as defense and interest. It's not going towards the smaller programs that we often see in the newspapers or that dominate political debate. Those are not going to do much to reduce our deficit and balance our budget and get our debt under control. A big part of the challenge here is demographics. A lot of our federal spending goes to our aging population, to our elderly. And in 2050, the population of Americans over 65 is going to be about 5 times more than it was in 1960. In 1960, we had 17 million Americans, 65 and over. Today, we have about 62 million, and that's going to keep increasing as we live longer. Part of the problem here is that we're supporting far more retirees relative to the working age population. It's the working age population that pays for all of this, and this is only going to get worse. In fact, when Social Security was first launched back in 1940, there were 159 workers per beneficiary. So the financing was relatively easy. I had to check this number a few times. I couldn't believe it was that high. Guess the number today. How many workers are there per beneficiary of Social Security, Medicare, and other programs? Fewer than 3. So there's a huge burden we're putting on our workers to pay for programs like Social Security and Medicare. Also, healthcare costs are growing and taking up a bigger and bigger portion of our spending and our economy. In 1960, healthcare spending was about 5% of our economy. Now it's 17 to 18%. It's one of the largest long-term drivers of federal spending growth. This is all happening automatically as our population ages, relies more on healthcare, and uses more healthcare procedures than previous generations did. So a lot of this is structural. It's not just a matter of Congress spending and spending and spending. It's kind of automatic based on our demographics right now. It's really quite scary, and we have to do something about it. We also have to look at the revenue side of the equation. If you look at the graph here, we're spending about 24% of our economy on government, federal government. We're only taking in 17% as a percentage of our economy. So these deficits are huge and large enough that if we're going to talk seriously about reducing them, we have to look at both sides of the equation, both spending and revenue, taxation. And unfortunately, we already have a very progressive tax system. We talk about tax the rich, pay your fair share. Well, the statistics are pretty clear. The top 1% of Americans bring in about 22% of income and pay much more than that in taxes. They pay 46% of federal income taxes. The top 10% bring in about 50% of total income, and they pay 76% of total federal income taxes. The bottom 50% bring in 11% and pay about 2 to 3% of federal income taxes. So we already have a highly progressive tax system. What does all of this mean? It means simple answers are not going to solve the problem. The types of things politicians talk about, we see in the news all the time, won't do it. For instance, foreign aid total is $70 billion a year, not anything close to a $2 trillion deficit. So when we talk about not sending money to this country or that country, it's an important policy and strategic discussion, but it's not going to do much to help our budget or our deficits. Similarly, some people talk about cutting discretionary departments, discretionary spending. Even if you took out entire departments like the Department of Education, and I'm only saying this hypothetically, that's $100 billion. Again, it's something, but in the scheme of things, it's not even close to a $2 trillion deficit. What about taxing billionaires? We hear a lot about that right now. The fact is, billionaires are really smart. They know how to move money. They know how to time when they sell things. They know how to adjust appraisals of their wealth if we were to do a wealth tax. Most serious analyses put the range of taxing billionaires more, if we really think that's a good idea and fair to do, at $50 to $100 billion. Fraud and improper payments, something we absolutely need to address. It's maddening to all of us. Could be $50 to $150 billion. So a great idea, absolutely essential. But again, not a lot in terms of $2 trillion deficits every year. We can improve government efficiency through better procurement, leaner staffing, and so on. That's $50 to $100 billion. But even if we were to remove the entire civilian workforce, that's only $250 to $300 billion. You talk a lot about let's fire government workers. Even if we did, it's still not enough on its own to do much towards a $2 trillion deficit. Yes, all of these ideas are interesting. Some are crucial, like improving government efficiency and eliminating fraud and abuse. But none of these individually closes a $2 trillion deficit. We have to look at the big programs. I'll talk more about that in a moment. But let's look at why this happens. There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that cause us to keep producing deficits. First, we're part of the problem. We want high benefits. We want stuff for free. We want someone else to pay for it, and we don't want to see our taxes increase. Politicians get rewarded for short-term results. We vote for them if they promise us something, even if it means borrowing long-term, because we don't see the borrowing. It delays the consequences. We love immediate gratification, and politicians are more than happy to help because that's what gets them reelected. We're also so polarized that compromise is difficult. If somebody bravely says we need to look at entitlements or we need to look at our tax system, they're immediately vilified by the other side. So it's really hard to be courageous and get anything done. And again, demographic pressures continue to increase spending. We're getting older. There's fewer workers to support the elderly population. All of these come together. The easy part is math. The hard part is political and structural. That's where the real challenges are. That's why we're going to need courage to make change. I also just want to make a point. A lot of people say, well, the Democrats are worse, the Republicans are worse. Actually, both parties are worse. The debt rose under Reagan. The debt rose under Bush 41. The debt actually stabilized briefly under Clinton, largely due to bipartisan effort by Congress. Both sides came together and came up with a balanced budget, actually a little bit of a surplus, which was terrific. Bush 43, the debt increased. Obama, it increased sharply after the financial crisis. Trump increased it in his first term. Biden significantly increased it, especially with COVID. And Trump, in his second term, has continued increasing our debt. There's just no way around it. Both parties are to blame. Their priorities are different, but long-term borrowing continues to persist no matter who's in power. So there's a trade-off here. If we're really going to get serious about our deficits, and I think we need to, I think this is the biggest problem that our government faces that it can actually have an impact on. We have to slow the spending growth for sure. We have to look at the big programs and do some entitlement reform. We have to reform healthcare because that's growing so quickly and taking up such a big share of our spending and our economy. We have to look at taxation and find sources of additional revenue. Those democratic socialists that want a model like Denmark and other Scandinavian countries have to realize that those countries tax everybody to the tune of $15,000 to $30,000 more per American household if we imported their system. So they have to get honest about additional revenue. We have to look at loopholes and our taxation system as well, as progressive as it already is. And economic growth will help. We need policies that grow the economy. This alone won't do it. Some politicians say, I'll grow the economy so much that the debt and deficits won't matter. That's never happened. We are at a stage where we're just not going to generate the economic growth required for that to be the only solution. It's another simplistic solution. So handling our debt and deficits is going to require large policy changes, lots of them, not one simple solution. If we act now, we have more choices. Earlier adjustments can be gradual instead of sudden. Delayed adjustments will be more painful. For instance, we know Social Security, if nothing is done to stabilize that, retirees are going to see a 22% automatic cut in benefits. Some of you think that might be the thing to do, but a lot of people depend on Social Security. And so it just becomes more painful the longer we wait. Rising interest costs and paying more and more interest as our debt gets bigger is going to reduce flexibility and choices over time. It's going to actually mean that we're probably going to have to pay more in taxes because we can't do anything about the interest. It could threaten our role in the world as the currency of choice. And high debt is going to limit our future economic and strategic options. So we need to act soon. We need politicians to have courage. Traditionally, we wait until there's a crisis. The crisis could be really big here if we wait too long. We need to take action now, and that's where all of us have to influence our elected officials to do that. We have to realize this is a big problem, and we have to do things about it. So here are some requests. First, get involved with groups like Long-Term America at longtermamerica.com. We're just regular people. We are nonpartisan. We don't take any kind of payments from political action committees or biased organizations. And we're just a group of people trying to make change, trying to get people to realize and focus on the issues that are most important to our long-term strength. Write to your representatives. If you go to longtermamerica.com, you'll see a template article. Put it in, or a letter or email, put it in your own words and send it to your representatives. We even give you links of who so you can find out who your representatives are and easily reach them. And elevate the conversation. I hope if you're like me, you're tired of the trolls in comments that just vilify the other side or have simple bumper sticker type solutions. This is a complex issue. We need to elevate the conversation. We need thoughtful dialogue. We need to listen. We need give and take. We need compromise. So help to elevate the conversation. And then subscribe. This is the first video I've ever put out. We're going to put out a lot more. We're going to do deeper dives on different programs, look at different options. So please subscribe here and make sure you get notified when we put out new videos so that you can keep being part of the conversation and leave your comments. Let me know. Let us know what videos you'd like to see, what questions you have, and we'll focus on those. So thanks for your time. I hope this was educational and informative. To learn more after this video, we have a ton of articles, both primers and insights at longtermamerica.com. Thanks very much.